It started with a feeling, an unsettling sensation I couldn't shake. It was the kind of feeling that crawled up my spine and stayed there, gnawing at me from the inside out. But like most things that don't immediately have a clear course, I brushed it off. Everyone has their off days, right? Days when the world seems a little darker, a little more silent. So I told myself to stop overthinking it. But then, it happened. It was late on a Tuesday night. The kind of night that had a stillness about it, like the air itself was holding its breath. I had just finished my usual routine, grabbed a glass of water, shut off the lights, crawled into bed with my book. It was supposed to be a quiet evening, just me and my thoughts. I was halfway through the 3rd chapter when I heard it. A sound, faint, almost imperceptible, like a soft tap on my window. I put down the book, listening carefully. The room was dark, and the only light came from the faint glow of streetlights outside, casting long skeletal shadows on my walls. My heart thudded in my chest as I glanced at the window, barely visible in the gloom. Another tap, slightly louder this time. I felt a chill creep across my skin, my mind racing through possibilities. Could it be a tree branch brushing against the glass? Maybe the wind was playing tricks on me. Or maybe it was something else. Against every instinct screaming at me to stay still, I slid out of bed and tiptoed toward the window. I pulled back the blinds, my breath catching in my throat. Nothing. Just the empty street, bathed in the pale glow of streetlights. The kind of peaceful night that made everything feel deceptively calm. I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding, half laughing at myself. It was nothing. Of course it was nothing. I turned away from the window, but then I saw something that made my blood run cold. A shadow. A figure, barely discernible in the darkness, stood at the edge of the yard. I froze. My eyes narrowed, trying to make sense of it. It wasn't a person. It couldn't be. My pulse was hammering in my ears as I leaned closer to the window. It was a shape, an outline, with no clear features. It didn't move, didn't even shift in the wind. It was simply there, watching. I stumbled back, knocking a lamp off the nightstand in my panic. The figure didn't react. It just stood, still as death. I couldn't tear my eyes away, my heart pounding harder with each passing second. Then, as if it had been waiting for me to look away, the figure stepped backward into the shadows. Gone. As if it had never been there at all. I don't remember much of the next few hours. My mind was a whirlwind of confusion and fear, my body trapped in a state of paralysis. I didn't sleep. How could I? Every creak in the house, every gust of wind against the windows had me on edge. I stayed awake, glued to the window, half hoping and half dreading the figure would reappear. The next day, I tried to tell myself it was a trick of the light, my imagination running wild. I even took a walk around my yard, searching for any sign of footprints, disturbed dirt, or anything that could give me an answer. But there was nothing. By the following week, I had convinced myself I was overreacting. I had pushed the incident to the back of my mind, telling myself I was just stressed out from work. That is, until I found the note. It was folded neatly and slipped under the edge of my front door, just barely visible when I opened it to collect the morning paper. The handwriting was blocky, uneven, almost childlike. I see you. I'm always watching. Always. I felt my stomach twist, a wave of nausea washing over me. Who would do something like this? Who knew I lived here? Who knew I was home alone? My mind raced, spinning out of control. I thought about calling the police, but I wasn't sure what to say. Someone left me a creepy note. It seemed ridiculous, but the fear that settled deep inside me felt real enough. Days passed, each one adding another layer of anxiety. The strange feeling, the sense that I was being watched, grew stronger. At night, the tapping returned, but I never looked. I couldn't. I didn't want to see that shadow again. Then, one evening, I decided to confront it. I couldn't live like this anymore. I needed to know, once and for all, if I was truly alone in this house. I waited until nightfall. Then, with my heart racing in my chest, I went outside, my hands trembling as I gripped the flashlight. I checked every corner of the yard, every shadowy patch of grass, every fence post. Nothing? But just as I was about to go back inside, I felt it again. That horrible sensation of being watched. I froze, turning slowly, scanning the yard. Nothing. But then I saw something. Or rather, someone. At the corner of the street, partially obscured by the thick shadow of a tree, stood a figure. A man. His face was obscured by the darkness, but his posture was unmistakable. Tense, stiff, like a predator waiting for its prey to make a move. My heart pounded in my chest as the man stepped forward, his movements unnervingly deliberate. The flashlight shook in my hand, casting erratic beams across the yard as I backed toward the house. He smiled, a slow, deliberate smile that sent a wave of terror washing over me. And then he spoke, his voice soft, but unmistakably clear in the night air. "I've been waiting for you to notice." I didn't wait to hear more. I turned and ran, my feet barely touching the ground as I dashed back into the house, slamming the door behind me. I locked every lock, closed every window, and huddled in the darkest corner of my room. The man never came inside, but I knew deep down that he had been there the entire time, waiting, watching. I still don't know who he was, or why he was fixated on me. All I know is that I can never shake the feeling that someone is always out there, just beyond the reach of the light. Watching, waiting. And no matter how many locks I put on the doors, no matter how many blinds I close, I can never escape the haunting certainty that I'm never truly alone.